open and the public consultation this evening for our budget discussion presentation this evening. And thank you, everybody, for being here and joining us. And our first order on the agenda this evening is the presentation of the 2022 draft budget for the City of Dawson Creek. This annual work that is done by council and by our administration has to be completed by the end of April, first meeting in May for approval and adoption. And so we've really taken the approach and the initiative over the last few years to really move and escalate that time frame up so that we're in a much earlier position with the approval of our budget for the upcoming year. It's a benefit to us in terms of capital projects so that we have the ability to have that direction for administration to prepare for capital and start to get the approval of that. And also just for the sheer work of having the budget approved by May, half the year is almost gone. And so we are early again this year, and tonight we're having the opportunity to present that budget to the public. Really, the strategic direction that this council has set is around the Peace River Agreement and trying to ensure that we move forward and build a strong financial future for our community. And that number one strategic priority has been ensuring that we move that Peace River Agreement money, the $50 million approximately that we get annually from the province, is put into capital where it was intended to be, and off the reliance and dependence of operations where we tended to be moving for a few years. Council's objective is to achieve a 70-30 split in that Peace River Agreement, with 70% of that funding going to capital investment and the remaining 30% allocated to operations, which also includes debt servicing, which some will argue that that could be included as well in terms of all that debt servicing is going usually to capital projects. The goal that we set for this is to achieve that in 2030. So we've been at it for about 2 or 3 years. Certainly this council has taken a very stringent approach to how we're dealing with that financial obligation and accountability we have. It's been tough work. I say that from a personal perspective in terms of how difficult the work is that you do. People don't come in the door here to ask us to stop doing things. They come in asking us to more services and add things to our budget. Inflationary pressures, cost of insurance, cost of fuel, cost of everything goes up, and that inflationary pressure is on our budget every year. But we felt that this was certainly the most important priority that we would have in getting ourselves into a position where that Peace River Agreement money is being allocated towards capital. As I say, I think the impact over the last 2 or 3 years, we probably moved $2 or $3 million in that direction of capital. And so it's been very beneficial, very worthwhile in terms of the work that council have done. I want to thank them for that, and to our administration as well. And I believe we're on the road where we'll achieve that result before 2030 if council continues to do the work ahead of them and moving forward. A couple of other strategic priorities for us. We had a sub-regional requisition priority for the last few years, and that was successfully completed with the Peace River Regional District, which will add approximately $600 to $1 million back into our budget in the coming years to help us offset some of the pressures of our some of the recreation programs like the arena and the pool and things like that. That's been accomplished and part of the work that we've been able to get completed. We're continue to work on tourism, and that will be a priority for us this year, and explore new tourism funding opportunities and a delivery model. The airport is another one. It costs us about $800,000 or $900,000 a year for our airport in a net subsidy by the taxpayers, and we really are excited about WestJet and excited about the service that provides to us, but we've got to look at a different model in terms of having $800,000 or $900,000 of a direct subsidy coming onto the city taxpayers. And then really need to build a solid asset management plan, and that really is critical for us. And I think a tangible capital asset program is really legislated. We need to have completed, and that's the work of council. So with that, I want to thank council. I want to thank administration. We've got some really, I think, important work completed and more to do. And so with that, I'm going to pass it over to Blair and Terry to run through the budget.
Your Worship, thank you. I won't take a great deal of time. Obviously, tonight we are here to go through the 2022 budget as presented and developed through the work of yourselves on council, all of the staff here at the city who have put many, many hours in. And certainly a huge thank you out to Terry, our CFO, who has stepped in, has been with us about 3 months now, maybe a little longer, Terry. And done an incredible job for us. But the work, as you indicated, it is challenging. I think for anybody that has been through the, I guess, the opportunity to sit on any council or any elected body, traditionally it's not people asking, as you said, to cut things back. It is to give us more. But council has made some very strong decisions financially to put us in what I would say is a strong financial future in the direction we're headed. So I want to say thank you, and we'll pass it over to Terry at this time to begin the presentation. Terry?
Thank you, Blair, Mayor and Council. I'm pleased to be presenting the 2022 budget to you all and the residents of Dawson Creek. I will be doing a high-level overview of the slideshow I prepared for the 2022 budget and welcome any questions you may have afterwards. So, excuse me, as reiterating what the mayor said about the 4 strategic priorities, Peace River Agreement being at the forefront, which the goal is to achieve the 70-30 split with 70% allocated to capital, infrastructure, and 30 towards operations, which would mainly be for debt servicing. Tourism, exploring opportunities for a new tourism funding and delivery model. Regional Airport Authority, exploring possibilities of changing existing operations for the airport into a regional-based model, and added for 2022 by Council is developing and implementing an asset management plan for the city. Why is asset management important, you ask? Public infrastructure is the foundation for a healthy and vibrant community, and in order to have a sustainable, resilient community that thrives now and for generations to come is the reason Council has included the city's asset management program as a strategic priority. By having a good financial plan in place, the city is able to assess which objectives are feasible and which ones should be prioritized. Slide 4 explains the overarching vision of Council is moving towards a strong financial future for Dawson Creek and achieving this by balancing the PRA funding towards capital infrastructure and continue to deliver services that are valued by our residents. The mill rate for 2022 is an increase of 4.5%, with 1.5 of that going towards the paving program. The Peace River Agreement allocation to capital for 2022 is 51%. The city will be borrowing in 2022 for the capital paving projects, which will be coordinated with water and sewer upgrades as necessary. Slide 5 shows the total assessment for 2021 in the first column compared to total assessment for 2022 in the next column. Residential had an overall increase of 5.84%, while commercial increased 2.19% from 2021. Slide 6 shows the mill rate increase of 4.5% in the middle column for all classes compared to 2021's mill rate. Slide 7 presents the municipal portion of property taxes generated based on 2022's assessment and mill rates per class, totaling $18.5 million as seen in the far right column. Slide 8 gives a general idea of what the municipal portion of property taxes will be based on 2022's current assessed value. ranging from 150,000 to 600. Please note that this slide does not include other government agency taxes such as school tax, regional district, regional hospital district, municipal finance authority, or BC assessment. Slide 9 shows where the city will generate its revenue. You can see that municipal taxes generate 19.89 million, 15.98 million from PRA. Fees and charges make up 14.14 million. Collections from other government agencies, which account for the non-municipal portion of property taxes, are estimated at 9.02 million. Other revenue consists of grants in lieu, federal and provincial grants, and transfers from other governments, accounting for 6.23 million. 5 million will come from borrowing, and 5.49 million will be used from capital reserves for carry forward projects from previous years. Slide 10 breaks down what makes up the fees and charges revenue. As you can see, the majority of the 14.14 million comes from water and sewer services, which account for 78% of this revenue. Slide 11 explains where the money goes. Protective services and recreation are the top two at 9.46 million and 8.19 million respectively. Transportation, which includes public works, transit, the airport, account for 6.97 million. General administration, which consists of legislative services, finance, human resources, IT, and elected officials, accounts for 4.75 million. Slide 12 details what makes up the Protective Services Department and is broken down with total expenses being in the first column, fees and charges that offset the expenses in the middle column, and the net cost to the city on the right. As you can see, police have expenses of 5.06 million and revenue of 260,480 for total expenses of $4.8 million to the city. The fire department has expenses of 3.53 million and revenue of $64,934 for total expenses of $3.47 million. Safety, bylaw enforcement, animal control, and building inspection total $719,000 for a total of $8.99 million for protective services. Slide 13 details what makes up recreation and culture, broken down by facility and departments. As you can see, the expenses total $8.19 million, as seen in the first column, and revenue generated totals $859,300 across all facilities, as shown in the middle column, for an overall cost to the city of $7.33 million. Slide 14 shows the total capital expenses for 2022, totaling $25.34 million. Paving makes up 36% of this, facilities make up 19%, and sewer and water are accounting for 29%, while the airport, sidewalks, drainage, and the equipment pool account for the remaining 16%. Slide 15 is a breakdown of the new and carry forward projects. As you can see, the total new projects for 2022 total 19.36 million, as seen in the first column, while carry forward projects, which are projects that were scheduled in prior years but never completed, total 5.98 million, as seen in the middle column. Slide 16 details the capital funding sources for 2022. The biggest contributor is the PRA money, accounting for 7.42 million, which is 51% of total PRA received. Excuse me. Community gas tax, water and sewer infrastructure fees, and interest earned are also being utilized to fund 2022 capital projects. Additionally, $5 million is coming from borrowing for the paving program. Capital reserve represents the carry forward projects that are not utilizing 2022 funds. For example, let's say in 2021 the city approved a $250,000 capital project, but for reasons beyond their control, they could not complete the project in the year. This money would have been budgeted for in 2021's capital plan, and because the project wasn't completed, the $250,000 is set aside in the capital reserve for the next year's capital plan as a carry forward. Slide 17 shows the historical trends of PRA in relation to capital, operations, and debt servicing. For 2022, 51% is allocated to capital, 14% to debt servicing, and the remaining 35% to operations. Any questions?
Thank you, Terry. And so we did have some correspondence, and Brenda, I'd appreciate if you could read those out, and we'll attempt to provide a response to those messages that we had received prior to the meeting tonight.
Thank you, Your Worship. We did receive 4 items of correspondence, and I will begin with the email received from Gloria Cleve, addressed to the Budget 2022 Committee. The South Peace Building Learning Together Society is a working partnership of community agencies, nonprofit groups, parents, and government representatives who are coming together to share resources, ideas, and expertise to address early learning issues in our community. This unique partnership supports a common goal: to enhance children's development pre-birth to 6 years by supporting strong family relationships and community capacity through effective learning opportunities. The BLT belief, investment in early childhood, is the most powerful investment a community, region, or country can make, with returns over the life course many times the amount of the original investment. The BLT Society would like to create a Dawson Creek Childcare Action Plan to address the perceived need for more childcare spaces in our community. Through community stakeholder surveys, family needs assessments, demographic research, and stakeholder discussions, it would be determined what childcare gaps exist and would offer a final report on the local situation. The impact of this project would be relevant, current data to offer those wishing to create or expand childcare spaces in Dawson Creek. Both the provincial and federal governments are poised to address childcare issues with new funding dollars. These dollars are inaccessible without a childcare action plan in place. The BLT is following up on a council presentation from July 2021 to request that the 2022 budget include funds to have city employees work with the BLT on the creation of a Dawson Creek Childcare Action Plan. Question: would the City of Dawson Creek please financially assist in the creation of a Dawson Creek Childcare Action Plan? The BLT appreciates your consideration in the request to have staff assist with this vital project for the economic benefit of our community.
Thank you, Brenda. And so I think the response for us, and certainly we'll bring it back, I think this is the first, since that presentation we received and council made and passed the resolution that we would look for funding to help us, some grant funding to try to help us find the way to help build and develop the Childcare Action Plan as requested by the group. And we did search that out. We missed the Union of BC Municipalities had a $30,000 grant available for exactly that purpose that we were late to the table. We weren't able to get in on. And so I guess we'll bring it back to council for discussion at our upcoming meeting and get council's direction in regards to the request to first of all, determine if we can a budget for it and if council is willing to consider some allocation towards it. And certainly that request is easily brought back to council, having had, we'll bring it forward to our next meeting. Thank you, Brenda.
All right, I will move on to the second item of correspondence. It's from Raceland Vance Bronson. Good afternoon. I have a few questions in regards to the budget. There's a decrease of over $100,000 to the BC Transit budget. Does this indicate future transit cuts not yet disclosed to the public? Our transit system doesn't need to be decreased, rather it needs to be increased to allow for more ridership and increased revenue.
Thank you. Blair, Terry?
Through you, Your Worship, to answer the question, it wasn't a $100,000 reduction. It's actually $28,586,000 from 2021's budget, which is mainly made up of $19,478 that was reduced in salary and benefit allocation, and $9,819 is reduced in the BC transit contract. So it's just a $28.5 thousand decrease.
Thank you. Blair?
Your Worship, just I think an important note as well for Raceland is that there is no planned service changes to the model that we presently see in Dawson Creek. That change was made last year. That change remains in place with the service being provided to remain at the level that it is today. So in case there was a thought that there was future cuts in this budget to BC Transit, there is not. None contained at all. So.
Thank you. Brenda?
Next item is from Cole Casey. I have a question that's been bugging me. Correct me if I'm wrong. We have a tax increase of 4.5% in our fine city this year because of operational expenses. Does this also include the operations budget? Does this also include in the operations budget the $32,000 raise to our CAO, including a vehicle allowance of $8,000? This also includes several other high raises to other managerial staff, 6%. Many Dawson Creek citizens don't even get paid that in a year, including myself, and if I'm not mistaken, city staff barely got 1% in this year's contract. I would like to request that the board review these managerial raises to something that is appropriate to the people of Dawson that are still struggling through this pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to go back, first of all, a little bit of time. And about 8 or 9 years ago, our CAO at the time, the CAO position at the time, I think the compensation was about $185,000 or $190,000 a year. And then we had a new CAO hired that did not have the length of service, et cetera. And so his salary came in at about, I think we started Duncan at that time around $145,000 or $150,000 a year. And then Duncan was here for about a year or two, and then Blair started in the position. And obviously we started the CAO at a level comparable at that time. The salary review, obviously, for us that we do at any time is always ensuring not to the individual but to the position. And we realized that we were woefully under the compensation required for a CAO to recruit a CAO. And the last thing you want to be in two positions, in my view, is one, to have a sticker shock for us in terms of trying to recruit somebody and having to add a significant amount of money just to get back into the ballpark to attract somebody into the position. As well as you always want to make sure that you're treating people fairly in terms of that compensation. And so Council reviewed that last year for our CAO position and brought it up into a comparative based on the market analysis we did at that time. And certainly there are positions that are paid a lot more than that, but we felt that that was in the range appropriately, and that's where we settled. We also, the salary increase and the collective agreement that we negotiated with QP carried a 2% increase. And we all, same thing, we believe that we want to make sure that the employees are our greatest asset in the organization, and we want to always make sure that we keep them current with respect to inflation and all CPI and all that other stuff. And so we try to be fair, and we've tried to be fair with that collective bargaining process for our employees, and but at the same time balancing the pressures of the budget and the revenue and how we try to get ourselves onto a solid financial future. And the senior team, like council, we were a couple of years before we held the line for city council's increase as well as our senior team's increases, trying to make sure that we got some things accomplished before we move forward with a wage increase for our senior team. But you got to make sure that you stay relevant in the marketplace for your senior people. You're not going to attract corporate officers and CFOs and all the rest of it. So that's an explanation in terms of what we've done. And the 4.5% increase keeps a 2.5% to 3% increase annually for CPI and inflationary pressures in our budget. And then we've added a 1.5% increase into the budget for a really focused capital program around paving. And we're going to spend $20 million on paving over the next 3 years. And we've heard that from our residents. Get the roads, if we don't keep them on top of them, they're going to deteriorate and cost us even more. So there's an explanation to Cole, the best I can in terms of history of here. And we appreciate the question. Thank you.
And we did receive a comment on Facebook at the time. It's not a question, looks like a comment from Grizz Michaels. It says, and you paid Jim as well at the same time, so it was higher.
Yeah, we kept Jim on, and I don't want to go into too much detail on it, but I was helped mentor, certainly while we were transitioning into a new CAO. So that was very well spent in terms of us helping mentor. But when you say that, you paid $150,000 a year to somebody that a position we were paying $190,000 to prior. So thank you.
And we did have one more comment from Grizz Michaels. $30,000 a year, $6,000 per manager for a vehicle allowance.
Yep. I honestly am not exactly sure of that, Blair.
There is $6,000 per, you'd have to read that again. I'm not sure. There's a vehicle allowance, part of a stipend for a number of people that use their own vehicles versus putting in mileage. Certainly that's for the CAO, and I'll speak to that, has been around for the past decade at least, so nothing new there. The other one there was, if I could clear, there was a question about a 6% increase for senior staff. It's actually 2%, just for clarity for the individual that asked the question.
Thank you.
And that is, the vehicle stipend is per year, not per month, as I read in one of them.
Okay, I will carry on then with the last correspondence
Thank
that
you,
was on
Brenda.
the agenda. It was a rather lengthy letter, so I did ask for her to just highlight the points, and so there's about half of it that's highlighted, and I will read through.
Council did get a copy of that as well, and everybody has a copy of it for their information.
Okay, if I don't read it? It's
Well,
on the agenda.
Yeah, but if you want to read some of the pertinent parts of it just for the public who are maybe listening.
Okay.
Thank you.
This is from Haley Reigert. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but it's in regards to laneway maintenance on 7th Street and 100th Avenue. Recently, the laneway on 7th Street and 100th Avenue has become a contentious subject between the residents and the city. I moved into the house at 700 100 Avenue in August of 2016. Since then, I've called on the city multiple times for maintenance of the laneway at 7th Street between 100th and 99th Avenue. Each time I have called, the city has gladly come to remove snow up until this winter. The city has told me that it is my choice to use my driveway, along with my neighbor's choice to use their driveway, and that we could utilize 100th Avenue for parking. I have a feeling that if my household of 6 vehicles and my neighbor's household of 2 vehicles, all insured, all parked on 100th Avenue, we would all be fined. Most recently, the last 2 snowfalls, we called the city to move the snow while they were in the neighborhood. It would have taken 10 minutes to push the snow off. This lack of snow removal and the sudden weather changes resulted in the laneway being extremely icy. Now, because of the ice buildup, and an accident happened yesterday, February 15th. Someone who does not live in any of the 4 houses near this laneway slid into my company truck that was parked in my driveway. Later in the day, when the sand truck came back, he made sure to stop while I was outside. In our conversation, he began to belittle me and blame me for almost losing the sand truck. He didn't even consider that I lost my truck because of the icy conditions in the driveway. I'm not able to go to work without that truck. It is currently not drivable and is in the shop for repairs. In my opinion, this laneway should be considered a fire lane. There is a fire hydrant located just off the laneway. Without being maintained, the fire hydrant may not be accessible. The recent accident and stuck plow truck show that a fire truck would not be able to safely access the hydrant in the event of an emergency without proper maintenance. Moving forward, I want to suggest a maintenance plan. The city would kindly maintain the laneway in the winter and spring in terms of snow plowing and removal, and we will take care of the grass and weeds. This would also make the fire hydrant accessible year-round instead of only accessible in the summer months. As a suggestion, maybe the city could budget or to repair or replace the culverts on 100th Avenue between 6th and 8th Street and make a curb to prevent the washouts every year. This would be good for both sides of 100th Avenue. Any heavy rainfall or excessive melt washes out all the driveways from the laneway to 8th Street, resulting in excessive amounts of gravel on 8th Street. And there were many photos attached to the agenda for reference.
Thank you, Brenda. So maybe to Blair, Kevin, speak to it or give council, some public and people who are listening, a response to that for us, please.
Certainly. Through your worship, I did pass out a map just for context for council to look at there, just so you could see the property in question is 700 100th Avenue, and it does show the adjacent 7th Street right-of-way that is, I think, referred to in the letter as a laneway. So 7th Street in that area of town is a road dedication, but it's an undeveloped road, so it's never been gravel or built or anything, but it is utilized by a number of folks for access to their properties. You know, from a convenience factor, I think it works well for a number of them. But we've traditionally not maintained these right-of-ways. Although it does appear in some occasions in the past, we have gone and sanded it upon request from this particular property owner. So we do not maintain lanes in the winter throughout the community. We just don't have the resources to do it. And so when this particular property owner has called in the past, I know there was some concerns about the concern not getting forward and any action on it. And I think the miscommunication on it is she was stating it as a laneway, and I think our response was, we don't maintain laneways, so unfortunately we can't help you. So there was a miscommunication there. And so we haven't this year, other than the one incident where we went up and because it was extremely icy. The fire hydrant, I did have the fire hall take a look and just review from their perspective if that was a concern or an issue, and the deputy chief stated that it is not a concern to them, that if they needed to utilize the hydrant, they wouldn't be pulling into that laneway. They would be on the street on 100th and just drag a hose the 30 feet over to the hydrant. So that does not appear to be an issue. The concern about the laneway that runs from 7th to 8th in the rear of the property, asking for some landscaping or something, I expect that maybe have some concerns about drainage. And in the summer, we do try and get through every lane in town with a grader and touch them up. And if there's something there that we can do to try and shape that so we can keep the water from running off the lane into the property, we'll certainly do that.
Thank you, Kevin. And so I think clearly the point we need to emphasize is that we do not have the capacity to look after laneways, and we get this fairly often where people look to us to come and try to do some maintenance or gravel or grade or snow removal, and we just clearly don't have the capacity, one, in terms of manpower and vehicles, and or the costs added to the already onerous responsibilities of snow removal. So I think perhaps that would be a response that we will give to the letter writer about ensuring that they clearly understand that from council that we do not maintain laneways, and just so that they're aware of that. Thank you, Kevin.
Yes, you're welcome.
Anything further, Brenda?
Yes, there was one follow-up question from Grizz Michaels. For the vehicle allowance, how many managers get that, for clarity?
Do we have that information, or can we respond back to
I
Grizz,
can
on that?
respond. We'd have to go through the individual contracts, and certainly I can come up with that number for Grizz.
Yeah, we certainly will get that information, and we'll respond to Grizz with that. Absolutely. None of Mayor and Council get a vehicle allowance. We use our vehicles. We put in a mileage expense claim for the personal use of our vehicles during company and city business. So, thank you. Anything further?
Yes, there is one from Stephanie Goody. From Stephanie Goody, President CUPE 2403. Since this council was elected, we have seen extensive austerity measures put in place, which have led to job losses, restructuring, and cuts to every department and service provided by the city. With respect to the financial pressures of COVID-19, our membership accepted a very modest deal when we negotiated our latest collective agreement. 0% in 2020, 2% each year in 2021, 2022, and 2023. To be clear, this is nowhere close to the rate of inflation for CPI. Despite this show of good faith, our membership has been told that Council's direction is to proceed with 2 to 3 layoffs per year moving forward, per an email sent to all staff in April 2021. Our members have been reporting increased stress, burnout, and workloads over the past few years, and the union would like to know how Council will continue to offer quality services to the community with a reduced workforce.
Yeah, thank you, Stephanie, and certainly I'll respond from Council's direction. This isn't all about more money when we're trying to get ourselves into this strong financial future. It is about reduced services, and when you reduce services, that can have an impact on some jobs, and certainly we've seen that. We cut $400,000 or $500,000 out of our park maintenance budget a few years ago, which resulted in us not hiring summer students, and so we've had those impacts. We've had impacts in terms of how we're getting to this result of moving off of the dependence on Peace River Agreement into operating. So there absolutely has been pressures, and we are not going to dispute that whatsoever. But there's no easy way to accomplish what we need to do. It's about reduced spending, and it's about more revenue. And how do you do that? Sometimes that's a reduction in services. Unfortunately, but we've tried to minimize that. We've tried to be innovative and creative, and I know that administration have dealt with that over the years in terms of trying to find ways that we can be least impactful to those employees that we know are the most valuable resource to any organization, because you need them to execute daily on the services that we provide. So we certainly appreciate that, and certainly if I will absolutely validate the 4-year collective agreement carried a 0% increase the first year and a 2, 2, and 2 behind that, and that was our effort to try to find a way to demonstrate to the employees that we weren't going to say, look, it's going to be 0, 0, 0 on 0. We want to try to find a way to work with our employees. And to me, that's, I think, the direction certainly we've taken from council and the direction we've given to our administration to how we're going to execute in getting to this strategic objective we have. Blair?
Your Worship, there's not a lot I can add. Some very difficult choices have been made over the last 3 years, and it is a challenging time when you try and shift many millions of dollars out of your operating budget, which was utilizing fair share or PRA revenue in your operating side. There are difficult choices that are made. And does that impact the workforce? Yes. I don't think anybody would say they're happy about some of these impacts without question. But it is, and there has always been the argument, is the city a business or is it not? I've always believed that municipal government is a business, and the return to their shareholders is services and financial sustainability for the taxes they pay. I think we're getting there, but it has not been without, and I would not sidestep that question either, without challenges and without impact on the workforce itself.
On that point, I just want to, I just looked at the slide on Terry provided on the Peace River Agreement, the historical allocation. Had we not done this work, and anything ever happened to that memorandum of understanding we have with the province, and we're looking to find all of a sudden $5 million or $6 million in additional revenue to offset that. Well, since 2017, we had $5.3 million went to in 2017 went to capital out of Peace River Agreement. This year it's going to be 8.1. Well, that's almost $3 million in new revenue, and it impacts to spending. And so we absolutely, that's part of the hard work that we've had to do. And it's not easy. Honestly, it's not easy. And we never, ever want to imply that it was. But that's the direction we've had to go in order to have a strong financial future for our community and our residents for the future, and then ensure that we're still providing services and still have those employees all locked in, coming to work every day, having that great job, great career that they have with the city of Dawson Creek, and that's our hope. Thank you for the question, Stephanie.
The last comment we have is just a final comment, I think, from Grizz Michaels, just to say thanks.
Thank you.
And we should probably wait a 20-second lag time
Perfect.
for any additional comments.
This delay.
Should have had a 40-second delay instead of a 20-second delay. The second question of 3 from Stephanie Goody. The past few years have seen the creation of several new management positions, all of which make well over $75,000 and have received a yearly increase of between 3.5 to 6%. Just have to expand this. The draft budget states that this is due to departmental restructuring resulting in exempt salaries being adjusted to keep competitiveness and management retention and succession planning. Has there been significant management turnover to warrant this? What is Council's plan for decreasing the amount of bargaining unit turnover and improving rates of retention?
Go ahead, Blair. Council wouldn't deal with employee succession or management structure. We just set strategy. Administration deals with structure.
All right. In some departments, there has been rearrangement of how we provide that service. There are still positions, management positions, that unfortunately we have not been able to fill. As much as all of us who live here and work here love it, it is sometimes difficult to attract some professionals. Our planning department, for example, comes to mind right away. All of the increases presently with our executive team or our exempt staff are tied to the 2%. So I'm not sure where and I'm certainly happy, Stephanie, to speak to you offline versus here, but we have tried to coordinate the numbers of city staff and city managers in a way that we can deliver the services the best way possible with the dollars available. And I think I will echo what the mayor said. If there was an endless pit of money, would I look at trying to operate things somewhat differently? I think so. Probably most of us, if our houses had endless pits of money to draw from, we would do the same. But when you have a set amount of money, you want to do the best you can with the money provided by the taxpayers on their behalf. So has there been some changes within management? Yes. Is there an overabundance of managers? I would say not. But also, I will point out that there is a full organizational review I am undertaking for the city of Dawson Creek, at which point we hope to learn. It is always good to get new eyes cast upon your organization. It would not matter if it is Tech Resources or the city of Dawson Creek. It is always good to look to see how you can improve what you're doing today, how you can do it better tomorrow, and what it takes to get there. So hopefully, I believe we've done a good job, not just certainly in my term as CAO, but the many people that have served in this position and every other position in this city, right from the people on the ground providing the services for us out that are members of CUPE, to our executive team, to our exempt staff. I say thank you. They do a marvelous job, and I hope, I work it this way. I hope to improve tomorrow on what I've done today, and hopefully everybody looks at their life that way and probably have a little better world.
Thank you.
And we have a final question from Stephanie Gowdy, and I was pronouncing her name incorrectly, so I apologize. In early 2020, sitting City Councillor Blair Leckstrom was appointed as the new CAO without the competition being open to the job market. With barely 2 years in the position, the CAO is now being given a 36.1K raise plus a 6K vehicle allowance. Using the rate provided in the 2020 SOFI report and not including 2021's increase, the CAO will be making approximately $187,000 per year. In a city of around 13,000 residents and a commitment to austerity, why is the appointed CAO now making almost $200,000 a year?
Yeah, as I indicated earlier, it was really about us doing a review, a compensation review for the CAO position, and we did do a review of communities of similar size across British Columbia, and we were woefully undercompensating the CAO position for the city. And for us, it was more ensuring that we stay current with that compensation, because we want to be fair to the people who are doing the work today, and you want to make sure that should a vacancy occur, that you're able to be attracting somebody into that position with compensation and benefits that are relevant to the marketplace. And so that's why that review took place. And probably when the CAO was hired originally, the compensation wasn't appropriate to the position at that time, and we did a review of it. And that's council who takes on that responsibility for the CAO's compensation and benefits. Thank you. Councillor Earl?
Sorry to interrupt, Your Worship. Thank you. There was a first part to that question with respect to the nature in which our current CAO came to occupy the job and how we went about that. I don't know if you want me to speak to it, but I just wanted to.
Yeah, no, it's up to council to make the selection and fill the CAO position, and that is a process that every council, we went through it when we hired Duncan Redfern, and we went through it when we hired Blair Luckstrom. And this council are the ones that take accountability for that, and our accountability will be up for scrutiny in October 15th. Sure.
Sorry, thank you. I would highlight that we did, because of not necessarily the unique nature, because I don't think this is the first time in the history of British Columbia municipalities this kind of change has been made, a sitting councillor becoming the CAO of an organization. But it's certainly rare, so we did get legal advice on how to proceed in a manner which made sure everything was above board, because it was a rare circumstance. So I think we could, I don't know if we need more detail than that, but it was the process under which Blair assumed that role was vetted by lawyers to make sure that it was in keeping with what was expected.
Thank you. Thank you. Anything further, Brenda?
There is no more comments at this point.
Okay, but we'll wait for a minute just
Maybe
to make
we'll
sure.
give it another 40 seconds.
Thank you. We'll close. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight, and thank you for everybody who participated online via the live stream. We appreciate it. It's what it should be. Thank you.